And hi guys, it's me, Next Morningstar, and I am doing an interview to Mr. Daniel Crabtree the moment he gets on and decides he wants to get in. So let me see. I'll send him an invite real fast. These are things. These are things. And hello, I see there's a viewer already. And we have Daniel here, finally. Add to camera. How's it going, Daniel?
What's up, buddy?
Not much up with you, sir.
Nothing much. Just got out of work.
Awesome. So, now that we have some people viewing, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, about your practices, about your craft?
Well, I finally owned up to and realized that I am who I am, um, which 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, um, never really got drawn to any particular path. Hi, Gary. Um, so I'm more chaotic eclectic, and for me, what chaotic magic has always been described to as for me is anything and everything, and nothing with any set form or path. So that and eclecticism, I think, kind of go hand in hand in that instance,
Right.
um, because
Now,
I've pulled from, I've done sigil, candle, a lot of charms involving herbs and stones, just pure intent casting. Um, but it's been the most me to do it that way, if that makes sense. Like, I've never been one that's really been huge on a lot of structure other than, core fundamentals. I feel like everyone has their own way of doing something, and some people prefer more traditional routes. And me, I prefer more of what I need as I need it, and so nothing's ever the same. I've tried to write a book of shadows, and I have two spells in there. The first one is to protect the book, and then the second one is a cleansing ritual, like for a friend, and everything else has just been.
but that makes sense. So, I always go by the philosophy, and the ideology that everybody's magic and everybody's path and practice and everything like that is their own. It's not a set stasis of follow these particular rules to really, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I do feel, particularly with the practices that are considered closed, there's a very good reason for that. There is training that is involved in that. Um, so I do believe, depending on the path you choose, that decides what you do or don't need to be doing or even want to do. Um, Nick Sarius has a question for one or both of us, I guess.
Uh,
What do you define as purity?
That would probably be more for you because I interviewed Nick Sarius last week and he asked me that same question and I gave that answer. So,
Um, well, Daniel, what this is about is Nick's can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a everyday, not everyday kind of interview. People who are the more common practitioners, not someone who's made a name for themselves, so everyone can kind of see what daily life is like and kind of see that they don't have to go by any particular route unless they choose to. Am I correct in that?
yeah, you are, but I'm also going to add something else to that too, Daniel. Also, well,
Yeah, of
not you,
course.
Daniel, but the other Daniel who asked the question. Also too, Daniel, I'm doing this also to put out there that, even if you aren't one of the well-known practitioners of like any publicized hardcore practice, And if your name's like not up there in like the golden lights and everything like that, it doesn't mean that you aren't as potent of a practitioner. It doesn't mean that you aren't as functional of a practitioner or anything like that. It just means you don't have that limelight on you. So I'm like trying to shed the limelight on the undiscovered, if that makes sense.
Yes, Nick Sarius answered his next question for us about magical practitioner, not nurse practitioner. I will stick with my fate, life and death situations that involve hair, please. But Nick, sorry, to go back to your question, for me, purity is more of case-based. If we're speaking spiritual purity, it's unadulterated. So it's, not necessarily, it's more in that black and white kind of process, if that makes sense. That it's this, that, or that, not muddled like much of things are. A pure gemstone is without muddling. Pure spirit is without the muddling. It's very set in how it is. I hope that answers what you're asking.
Well, going into Nick Sarius's question as well too, like another view that I have to take on that too, you know what I mean? Well, going by like his definition as well of like purity is like, to me being pure doesn't necessarily mean like being like spotless per se. To me, being pure is more along the lines of being true to who you are 110%, if that makes sense. Which pretty
Yeah,
much what
yeah,
you're saying,
very
you know
much.
what I mean?
Well, you said it with much better words and a lot less words. But I see
I've had
purity
to
as
answer that
unadulterated.
question quite a few times.
So you're versed.
Yeah, that and also there was an episode of Xena Warrior Princess where they had to like unleash like this like particular weapon, but the weapon didn't like hurt anybody who was pure. And Xena, who has like done like misdeeds in her past and everything like that, you know what I mean, like was able to like be unscathed. They're like, how? She goes, because I'm pure to myself.
Um, so Nixarius is asking, how do I refine my abilities? Practice. Um, I, when I can and I move to do so, I will cast, even though it's never the same. I'm still able to refine and focus my intent and my ability to focus in on that intent. So even if my ingredients aren't the same, I'm stronger and better and more refined in how I approach something.
My next question that I'm going to ask you though is like you said how you do like the chaos magic as well and everything like that. Now, okay, coming from like the type of like section where I come from and the satanic practices and everything like that.
Right.
Okay, like what we felt, what like people on my spectrum refer to chaos is like more of like working with the energies of Saturn and things like that of like like the great like father of like all Titans, Chaos himself, who like ate like his children and everything like that. Is that what you refer to as the same with Chaos, or?
For me, with chaos, it is a lot of the energy manipulation and utilization. In fact, that's the core of what I do. Um, I don't work with the Titan himself. I actually work with Anubis and Artemis, both whom reached out to me over the last 2 years, Anubis more recently. But for me, my chaotic practice, the theory behind my chaos is more in the fact that nothing is ever 100% the same. Some of the core things that I do may be similar, but it's never a set recipe anytime.
Yeah, I totally actually like understand that viewpoint and perspective as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But this is coming from
I've just
me
never.
this is coming from me though that like I definitely fit that one meme that was going like crazy like a year and a half, 2 years ago with the whole thing of like they say you need to clean before magic and you just wipe the Cheetos off your pants meme. That's
Yep,
mine. Like
that's me.
that's so me right there.
100% me. um, Nixarius, as far as viewing growth of myself compared to another, like Reggie said, I don't. I view my growth against myself and where I was to where I am. Um, I love to see other people's growth, and I actually have a best friend here who I practice with quite often. Um, we've made pink salt together, rose water, um, and done some other stuff together, but she's still different than I am. And so I don't really compare. I do see it more as an apples to oranges to grapes to strawberries kind of feel. Well, it's all fruit, it's all different.
So, so my question to that point is, with that being said, are you like, do you work in like a particular like sect, like a coven, you know what I mean, or anything like that, or are you a solo practitioner?
More solo, and actually, she just joined. Hey, Jackie. Um, she and I, um, when we do work together, it's like that. But no, I'm more solo practitioner outside of working with her.
And how do you view and like how would you say like how would your practices like involve like anything like let's say like protective base or baneful base or anything like that?
Uh, it's more as I need it or as I see fit. Much of what I do is more the protective, what's considered to be white magic. Um, I'm not above a hex. I'm not against hexing at all. But I don't necessarily do it that often because I've never been slighted to that point, if that makes sense. I usually try to just brush stuff off because if they aren't actively after me and just piss me off, then they're not really worth my energy. Cut them off anyways.
Well, I have to agree with you at that point too. Like me with my practices, like yes, obviously I practice a certain way and everything like that. But at the same token, like if it's like something like, stupid and mundane as well, I'm not gonna like waste like a candle and ingredients and whatnot because someone cut me off at the parking lot. You know what I mean?
Right, right. You know, I may say I hope you hit your wheels and mess up your rims, but that's about it.
Exactly. Well, no,
And if there's
actually,
enough, if it's bad enough, there may be enough intent to make it happen anyways. But with that point, I do feel of cursing and hexing to be, I feel it needs to be more equitable. I'm
exactly.
not gonna like curse a bloodline just because, you know, somebody's come after me. If say someone's after my relationship actively, I might hex or curse against their relationships, you know, and that they see what they're putting out. But I'm not gonna like, you know, somebody cuts me off in traffic, I'm not gonna curse their whole bloodline.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um,
You know, that's where like
Kyle, as far as go ahead,
no,
sorry.
oh, sorry, no, like, well, Gary asked a question, so let's get to like, yeah, I'll let you answer his question first before we totally like before his question gets like up and disappears.
Right.
So, what are
Um,
some of your goals for your path?
for me, it's just continue to grow stronger in my magic. Do what I can for those I love, um, and find myself more and grow myself better and stronger and more, and help those who ask for it. Kyle, as far as conquest, I don't like if it's spiritual conquest over somebody, I don't bother. Um, if it's like physical conquest, like you know the conquistadors during or Spanish Inquisition sort of thing, um, they thought what they were doing was right. Historically, maybe not. But it's all in who sees himself as the hero. Every throughout history, the hero is defined as by the people that supported them, whether they were right or not. Um, and then Gary, as far as obstacles blocking me, most of it's time and myself. I can't tell you how many times Acre has had a message for me from his deities saying, "Get out of your friggin' head and shut up and just do it."
So my next question is like, as far as like, your practices go and everything like that as well, like, do you like, what would you say like, as far as like, you know, certain abilities, gifts or whatnot that you always have with you, like, what would you say would be like one of those things?
I do have a very strong intuition. I inherited that from my mother. She wasn't a practitioner, but she still had the ability to just know things. She could call me knowing that I needed to talk to her. So with that, I'm very good at being able to read somebody. I don't necessarily always see an aura. It's more just the vibe. It's that feeling. I have seen auras, which was really new to me. Um, I've even seen spirits and ghosts, which was extremely insane before I realized working with, a god of the dead that should have come with territory. Um, but it's more in the intent channeling, energy transference probably, but I've not tried it in a very long time. But usually, most often, the stuff I've found that I've been most capable of besides divination is something like intent tra and energy reading.
When you say you work with Artemis, okay, my question is like, what does that bring to the table?
Artemis is very subtle to me. She doesn't seem to be as upfront as Anubis is. It's more of that thought in the back of your head that kind of kicks in. Um, Whereas, like with Anubis, he'll be completely direct. If he wants an offering, I smell frankincense. Um, she stays behind me more. She kind of more on my six and very much more subtle in her approach, much more tactical and strategic.
Well, of course, she's the goddess of the hunt. Like she will,
Exactly.
you know what I
Exactly.
mean? And she wields a bow and arrow. Like obviously,
But yeah, much more not silent, but much more subtle. Oh, okay. So Thaddeus, conquer self-doubts to trust intuition and power. Do it. That's I just have to get out of my head. Like for me, I get out of my head and I'm like, you know what? I can do this. Just do it. So um, it's one of those you do have to kind of just take a leap, and then it does get easier as you go. I still have self-doubts. I'm a millennial. We're 100% self-deprecating in the first place. Older millennial, which just makes it that much worse. Um, but yeah, it's really just do it. You're gonna fail. You're gonna end up right back where you've been. That's all failure is. And then I take the lesson from it. I like to look at my magic very scientific. Um, when looking at signs, I actually try to rule out anything naturally that could happen before I look at it as an actual message. Um, with my magic, I take apart pieces and see what variables would work.
sorry, I keep adjusting my camera. Okay.
You're fine.
No, okay. So
Um, uh, Apparently, this is on my actual wall, which I'm not out of the broom closet yet, so this will be fun if anybody gets nosy.
no, no. Okay, so my next question, my question to you right now with that going on is, okay, God, I have the words in my head. Where the fuck are they? No, okay, so you saying the scientific approach, right?
Mhm.
Um, okay, do you also how do you feel about using a psychological approach in your workings as well?
Absolutely. I usually try to go through um, what my headspace is at the time, um, where what I'm needing, what I'm looking for, and go from there.
That makes, because I know me when I do my workings, you know what I mean? I pretty much like always like try to like go, like I always like analyze my spells as well with some psychology in there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And I discovered that when I was like doing some workings with doing some workings from a particular author whose like names that I'm not mentioning because I'm not like trying to like put anybody's name out there like that. And
Right.
that particular author's books like does have like a lot of psychological context in the workings, and that's when I'm like, this makes more sense now, and I could actually work with this. Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I actually haven't done a lot of reading. Most of mine has been trial and error or infographics, things like that. Um, but it's much more practical on my approach with things. Um, so I guess it's part of why I don't really do a lot of the reading. I use my magic for the practicalities. I need to do this or I need to do that, so I cast for that.
What are materials that you are always finding that you need in your practices? Like you can never have enough of because you just go through those particular materials like that frequently.
Um, Basil, sage, salt. I go through a ton of salt. Um, uh, Crystals, depending on the crystal. I use tiger's eye often in my charms. Amethyst. I actually read my cards with amethyst and quartz, pepper, and oils. I use a lot of oils.
What's your particular like go-to oil?
Generally lavender as of right now. Um, Frankincense often, cinnamon, clove. A lot of the protection, healing oils. I use my Florida oil as often as I can think too. Um, that's most of my repertoire.
You have, two that I love to use, you know what I mean? Like for like for like, whether it be like protection working or even like something as like mundane as like divination and everything like that is I like to use I like to combine patchouli with not patchouli, sandalwood with dragon's blood.
Yes, I use dragon's blood incense a lot.
And my question to you is like, as far as like, with the actual like herb itself, what herb like do you always have to keep on hand for yourself as well?
Basil, sage. I have cinnamon sticks and peppercorns. Lavender. I love lavender, so.
And candle colors, what are your go-to candle colors?
I've not done as much with candle, but mostly white because it can be universal. It's always the easiest to have and keep. Um, but between white or black, I would say would be if I were using more candles, those would be the two I'd most likely use the most of.
See, I have this like crazy theory when it comes to candle workings myself is candles didn't have like real colors to them till like the 1900s, and practitioners before that were using the natural base candles. You know what I mean? It's only like
Yeah.
modern witches now that say you have to use this color for this and that color for, you know what I mean?
See, for me, the herbs and stones obviously they have some property to them in the first place. Um, Other than that, I usually use I see the colors as a means of assisting in the focus. Just like with a wand, any of the tools or herbs or stones you may use, it's more of helping to maintain that focused intent. That's why, green is associated with money, so that's why green candles for money worked. Um, Black, I feel, is something you can be used offensively or defensively. Uh, White is yours. Um, So for me, anything that involves color is mostly just to help maintain and further that focus.
And Eugene Brown asked a question at all. He said like, rituals, offering, altars, like what is your placement?
I don't really do rituals, and I don't have an altar. As far as offerings, it's strictly incense. I don't do food or beverage offerings. Both my deities are fine with just incense burnings. Um, those are generally in the open space, so they're actually um, right over there. Excuse the mess.
You're good. You're good. You're good. It
Um,
makes my place look terrible. So thanks for that.
um, but yeah, I don't really have any because of the fact that I don't really practice anything the same way more than once. Um, it's more just utilization of what I have, and I don't have a lot of space here. I don't have a lot of excess to be able to afford food or wine offerings. So they get incense burned in a place that I'm most often, which is my living room.
And do you use like any like, spiritual tools or anything like that?
Uh, Not necessarily, really. Thinking about it, they each have a statuette of them, um, but more just because, like, I thought they were cool, and I thought it'd be a nice little homage.
Yeah.
But my workings with my deities is more just a general working, kind of just a daily thing. Hey, thanks for your help, or hey, I need your help. Um, but I don't really do a lot with outside of just, general shadow works. But I usually just focus on me because I'm the one that needs it.
Yeah.
So
And like as far as like the like baseline of your workings as well, like, would you say like what would you say like your specialty type of working would be?
probably more with like the charm, herbal works and intent focus. I charge every charm I make and focus intent into that as I'm building it when it's built. Most of what I've done has been those bottle charms, like witch bottles, some people call them.
Yeah. And question at that point is, do you market these charms that you make?
I tried for a little bit, um, with the chaos of working two jobs. Um, it's very draining, so I haven't really built or made anything much. Um, so no, I guess this is probably the correct answer, at least not for now.
Well, if you ever want to market it, you are free to advertise on like my Eye of Lotus page and everything like that. If should you ever decide you want to like market any of those,
Thank you.
because always looking to lend out a space to anybody who'd be willing to who wants a space. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Once things start to settle down for me, I'll have to look into doing that because I really do enjoy it, especially being able to help people. I had kind of a base list of things that I could do with it. Getting the supplies can be a little tricky for me with where I live. Um, Not a lot of metaphysical options. In fact, a number of my herbs are McCormick. Um, but again, if it's the intent, I'll cleanse them and utilize them still, and the intent still gets added in, so they're still effective.
Well, my personal view on that is, let's say, example, at work, I could grab this pen. Okay. And if I like just hold on to this pen and focus my energy on this pen, I could turn this pen into my lucky pen.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like that's how I view it with the, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah, absolutely.
when reality is there's like no sacred thing on this pen at all whatsoever. It's just a piece of black plastic with
Yeah.
black ink. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, everything can be made that way. So I'm with you on
Exactly.
that. That's where talisman charging even comes from in the first place.
Mhm. And Nick Saria's fall song just stated he hears opportunity, which is a positive sign.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. I hope to be able to take advantage of it soon.
So, okay, so as far as like, going more into like your meditative state and everything like that too, like what is your meditation practice consist of?
Um, Usually if I'm trying not to cuss somebody out.
No, but I mean, okay, like, are you like one of those people who like need to have like the nature sounds when they meditate, or is it
Um,
just
I actually I actually don't meditate. Um, I probably could stand to, but I actually don't usually do that. If I do anything, it might be an in the moment kind of just calming, grounding thing, but that's it. Otherwise,
just because like okay, like I just asked that question because I know a lot of people I know a lot of people who are like who meditate regularly. I meditate regularly like every morning and every night, like the moment I like get out of bed and the moment I get into bed. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Just to kind of like
I try to,
just to kind of like clear everything out. And for me, what I listen to is I usually listen to like, believe it or not, like hard metal or hard rap.
yeah. Well, I mean, they have a repetitive bass line. They have
Yeah,
a means of helping you with that if that works for you. That's why people opt to often use like the singing bowls.
exactly.
Nature sounds I find to be more sporadic unless it's like the running water kind of sound. If you get a bird chirping, I feel like it can pull you out of it.
Yeah,
Um, I've had tried, and often it was something more repetitive, chanting or like listening to chants or whatever. But no, I actually really don't very often. I usually try to match my energy to what's around me. Um, and I developed with that the ability to block out a lot of the negative vibes that can come up from it. Um, so I feel like if I were to meditate and try to start setting my vibe, that it might actually um, affect my ability to match the energy of a person or a room that I encounter. But that's
and Reggie just said, just remember meditation is more than sitting calmly and loaded position. It could be listening to your favorite song, being your favorite part, a quiet place. Just, that's special for you. It's not limited.
absolutely because it is a vibe effect. That being said, I think because I usually like to show up to work early to get a feel for what things are going to be,
Yeah,
so that my vibe can align with that. So, yeah, that's a good point. And often I'll have like my favorite songs on repeat for a while, because it does help to elevate a mood. So, good point. Oh, okay, yeah. I see what you mean, Reggie. Um, but yeah, so
well, okay, so my next question is, do you find that being a practitioner like affects your workspace as well since you work two jobs?
uh, yes, one of my jobs is highly creative because I just graduated hair school and got licensed, so I actually do hair. But even in school, I found that I put a lot of my energy into um, my craft there and how those people feel leaving my chair. Um, as far as the other workspace, a lot with the meeting of magic, the meeting of an energy. Um, I do find that my craft is a lot more daily than I realize, just not necessarily as conscious.
Makes sense. So, okay, so, my question is, have you ever had like an experience working in a salon? Okay, where let's say you had like a client per se, and that client was a total bitch to you. Has the thought ever crossed your mind of, let me pick up this piece of hair from that bitch off the floor?
That's absolutely. Um, n no, no. Again,
No.
it's more of that. Are they really even worth my time? So I usually, I mean, jokingly, yeah, but in all honesty, no, just because I have better things to worry about than their shitty attitude.
And so, okay, so as far as like, you said your talisman thing. Is there like any like sacred piece of jewelry or something like that that you keep adorned to you as well in all times for your practices?
Um, yeah, I have a few pieces. I have my ring, well,
Tree of life?
rings, but
Yes.
particularly the Tree of Life. And then I have a piece that was my mom's. It's a cartouche my dad brought over from the Middle East, and then I ordered this one to match it. But
Nice.
yeah, if I don't have any of those, I feel absolutely completely naked and exposed. Um, but yeah, this, I would say probably this most of all, because of the intent of purchasing and um, meaning for it. So
Is it one of those rings that has like a little compartment inside?
no,
Uh,
that'd be really cool, but no. This actually helps to keep me from getting too greedy as well when I'm cutting hair. So it serves a few purposes. Because
see for me,
otherwise you can be bad to slice right in the webbing.
it's like I get to put like a little secret herbs in there.
No, that would be great. I have a lot of people that think it's Jack Skellington at first glance because of the open spaces. They look like eye sockets.
Wait, let me see.
Um,
Let me see. I can see that. I can see that. I can see the Jack Skellington. Yes.
yeah, I'm not mad either way. Um, Nixarius, my limits to my practice. Oh, established limits. Nothing in which I require training as of right now, mostly just because I don't have access to it necessarily. Um, Otherwise, I feel like something could be done with respect to where it came from. Um, like I said, I don't usually bother with hexing, cursing, anything like that because um, I don't want to exert energy into it without really good reason. Um, mm, Necromancy. I don't like dealing with spirits enough as it is, so probably not that. That'd be about it.
Okay, now
Otherwise,
may I say something to that point?
yeah,
What
absolutely.
what do you consider necromancy?
Anything that involves communication with deceased. Um, just because I'm not versed in it. Obviously, when you think of necromancy at first thought, it's you're raising bodies, which is really not something like, maybe at one time people had the capability. I feel like some may still, but we have a lot of distractions anymore. Um, but I feel like there's some root of truth to things like, the fireball, the chi energy. Um, Maybe one time we could do it when someone could be trained and focused in on that. But there's so much distraction now. I feel like it's really difficult to try to find anything close to that. Um, but in general, I see it as any kind of workings with the deceased, and I uh, don't like to invite any of that into my house. I don't even do ancestral work, but most of my ancestors were Southern Baptists, so they wouldn't really appreciate this.
Well, I believe that the ancestral work goes beyond like your immediate like family line. Like I think it goes like way further back to like let's say I don't know what you're culturally like inclined to, but like I know like for me coming from like my father's side, like my ancestral workings would be like working with like the Norse deities. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I haven't really looked too much into my history. Most of my family's not been too concerned with it. So, like I have Native heritage, Old Sage Cherokee from the Appalachian area, but yeah. Other than that, I don't work with anyone in my bloodline, back the line, anywhere.
And Nexarius would like to know if you work with the Fae or similar creatures.
I do not work with a Fae. I do and have worked with dragons, not frequently. Um, but I had started with that and um, still communicate with them some, but just the dragons. I haven't messed with the Fae. They like to hide things on me. That's the extent of our interactions. It's some practical joking.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so like when you said you worked with the dragons, like can you give me a little bit more of a definitive type of working you've done with dragons?
I did cast a protection spell for my friend and her baby. Um, she had had some pregnancy issues before, and she became pregnant again. And to avoid another complication, I did call on one of them to watch over for her. I have, besides offerings, have asked for their assistance with things before.
Going with the okay, so going with the dragon magic is actually like a really, 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 really potent, strong form of magic to like really get into.
Yeah, if you can get one of them in, it is an intense feeling.
And what's even crazier is how like working with the dragons and everything like that, like people see like the dragons to be like gods and everything like that. What if I told you that even the dragons that people see as gods actually have like gods they worship themselves?
Yeah, I know Tiamat, I believe, is to be considered the queen of dragons.
Yeah, she's the mother of
Um,
the dragons, yeah.
um, and then there are variations thereof with that. But yeah, no, I do believe, and I'm not even remotely surprised by them having a hierarchy and ones that they worship.
Yeah, and I find too that dragon magic is kind of like transcends to like almost like a huge percentage of like the pantheons. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna just say every pantheon because I'm sure if I say that, people are gonna like flood it with, well, this pantheon has no dragons and this pantheon has no dragons. So I'm just saying a huge percentage, a huge percentage.
Uh, in some variation, I mean,
Yeah,
um, looking at other cultures, there's almost every culture has had some dragon involved, some great energy akin to the dragons, if nothing else. But
yeah,
even looking at Aztec culture, Quetzalcoatl in some was serpentine with rainbow wings, so
yeah.
very obviously dragon-like.
And my next question is, you know what I mean? Like I know like you stated you don't like have like, like you don't use very many materials and things of that nature. But my next question is going to be as far as like, like books or authors, like who would you say is like your go-to author to go to for your workings?
I actually don't read, but Uh, Senmois, I believe is how I pronounce his name. Um, he and I have worked, he's helped me out with some things when I've had questions. He's a published author. Um, I do have Dancing with Dragons to learn more with dragon lore. As I'm not Wiccan, I will look at the spell work in the second half of the book. Um, might take pieces from it. I don't remember the author offhand, but I know a lot of Draconian practitioners know of this book. Um, but yeah, otherwise I really don't read. I kind of just go off of me and what I can do, and research through Google for, what is this plant good for? What is this herb good for?
And what is your go-to divination practice? Like, do you like to use tarot cards? Do you like to use runes? Things of that nature.
I will read tarot and oracle. My oracle deck is the Crystal Oracle, which I feel like goes more into the unseen side of the tarot. I feel like with tarot, for me, it often reads the physical side of a situation, and then the oracle will read the emotional and mental side of a situation. So I'll even actually read those together if I need a more in-depth picture.
You should experiment with the Lenormand cards, and if you like to do the combination like that, because Lenormand, you basically combine like the cards to get the meaning. And
When I read tarot, usually I look at big picture versus each card itself necessarily, unless I'm doing a past, present, future.
that's why, like, definitely then check, you know what I mean, like look at the Lenormand decks, check those out. There's some, you know what I mean, pretty good like material to cover that. I know Gary
Mm,
Rosenberg is quite affiliated with Lenormand as well, so you could, you know what I mean.
yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out. Nixarius is asking how I feel about spiders. Um, as long as they keep their distance. Um, I'm not going to be a fan of the venomous spiders. Non-venomous, I've been less hostile over the years. Let's say that.
He's asking more though on the spiritual aspect of spiders.
Oh, oh, like arachnia,
Yeah,
sort of
things like,
like.
yeah.
I
It's just to be simple. I haven't looked at any kind of spiritual side to them. I believe all humans have some kind of spirit. Complications with the some things, but I think because of this, whatever you want to call it. So I try to be respectful of it, but otherwise. Okay, and then okay, so Kyle Shalnarine in Tize Katayama says he loves spiders as well. So we have spider lovers here. Y'all can have at 'em. If it has more than four legs or less than two, I'm not a fan, and that's still negotiable. Okay, then I guess I'll be keeping my snakes and spiders to myself. Well, thank you for your time. I'm gonna head out. I'm gonna wash this up. So. All right. Well, thank you for the interview. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure, and we should definitely do this again.
absolutely.
All right. Bye.